We're here with Jodie Evans from Pink, co-founder of Pink. Thank you so much for speaking with us on the UpTake. Tell us what brings you to Netroots Nation, why this is important to you.
Oh, Netroots Nation was important at the very beginning. I mean, it was really to show that we don't have to rely on mainstream media to get our stories out. That the story has a place, the truth has a place to leak out, be told, be shared, and to come alive. And so I'm always in support of Netroots Nation and all the bloggers and all the organizations that continue to fight.
Tell us about, for those who don't know, tell us about Pink. What is Pink? And you're a co-founder, so what started it?
Oh my God, that's a long story. So the day Bush put forth a resolution for a preemptive strike on an innocent country, Medea, Benjamin, myself, Diane Wilson, who's a shrimper in the Texas Gulf, our troublemaking girlfriends, and we said this can happen. I mean, for me it was a primal scream. How could America think of invading an innocent country? I couldn't fathom it. So when I feel disempowered, I move into action, and so we did 3 actions that day. The first was a big banner on the White House that said, no war in Iraq. And Diane climbed up on the post of the White House, and everybody freaked out, thought it was a terrorist attack, and it was on the news. And as soon as they got her down and found out she was an anti-war activist, it was not a story anymore. And then we went to the steps of Congress at lunchtime, took our shirts off and put these pink doves of peace on our bra, and on our bellies we wrote, "Read my tits, no war in Iraq." And we talked to all the members of Congress and senators and actually had a really great conversation with Wellstone about he was thinking of voting for the war because it meant he would lose. And he was my deputy campaign manager when I ran Jerry Brown's campaign in '92, and I was like, you know, how can you do this? Why do I care that you win if the most important vote, you can't do the right thing? And, you know, so he eventually did the right thing. And not only did he do the right thing, but he showed when you do the right thing, everybody comes to your support. I think through Move On, they raised like $750,000 the day of his vote. And then we went into the hearing room and disrupted the hearing room. And so I'd say that Pink is that. We go in the face of power, we capture its attention in any way we can, and we say, no, you're going in the wrong direction. And there's another story, or, you know, we expose the story that nobody's telling. You know, like one of our women, when Condi Rice was testifying to Congress, went to Condi Rice's face with red paint on it and said, "The blood of Iraqi children is on your hands." Now, we all know that is true, but it's like taking the story and reminding everyone what's true. It's like when the Wall Streeters were testifying in Congress and we were behind them with the big greed signs and we want our money back. I mean, why do those pictures go around the world? Because it's what everyone knows, but no one will say. And so we moved to, in the face of power, to try to stop the insanity, or at least to show there's another story. And Code Pink was really because Bush was frightening the American people with Code Red and Code Orange and Code Yellow and duct tape. And we said, no, Code Pink for peace, for patience, for compassion. And I don't think we knew the power of pink when we said that. But, you know, in a room, pink has its own power, both the power of making you feel safe and calm and the power to bring attention.
And you've been so successful, right? I mean, pink lingerie, pink slips showing up all over the halls of power. I mean, was it Donald Rumsfeld or Dick Cheney who expressed amazement saying that you were always there?
Yes, and I think we see ourselves as a container for women to be in action. You know, if there is a woman outside a base in Oklahoma, she can be out there in her pink slip that says, "In this war, you know, women say pull out," or, you know, whatever, but she knows she has 200,000 other women globally at her back. And it really is an expression, so much of what Code Pink is a personal expression of these women's frustrations at what, you know, the powers that be are doing, both the military power and the political power.
Why did the mainstream media stop covering it when they realized it was anti-war demonstrators and not a terrorist that had infiltrated the White House?
I mean, that's a big question. That's why we're here at Netroots, is because the mainstream media doesn't cover the real story. Yeah. And it was after that you know, Netroots and the blogosphere, you know, started to really bubble up and happen. They're owned by the corporations, and they're not going to tell a story that doesn't benefit them. And I mean, it wasn't just, I mean, to look back and see the blinders that were on everyone media, Congress. I mean, sitting in that hearing that day was so crazy to listen to members of Congress say things that were just literally insane and that weren't true and that they said with such confidence and had no idea about. I mean, we went to Iraq so that we could come back and even speak personally about it. Right. That we started to feel like, okay, we want to come, people are like, how do you know? And they're saying this and you're saying that. It's like, oh, let's go so that we can come back and say what's really happening. And the scary thing was that you could be there and it's so obvious what was there. We had already trashed that country with sanctions. The fact that we were going to bomb this country that was already a shambles, or that we saw the army, it's disgusting to think that with our army that we would go after that. It's a level of violence and abuse and terrorism that nobody wants to hear because they don't want to see themselves that way. Or, the woman who came, we happened to be there when Bush said the game is over, we're going to do shock and awe. And the woman just came and buried herself in my chest and said, how do I protect my children? So after we've just been terrorized, know the pain of that. Especially a New Yorker knows like how horrific that is. To go and do that to another person, I don't know what kind of blinders have to be on people. I don't know how they operate when they allow that to happen. I don't know who at the New York Times can look themselves in the mirror. Right. I can't answer that question. I have no clue.
With President Obama, still have a huge presence in Iraq, a bigger presence in Afghanistan. What is Code Pink's attitude toward President Obama? Have any covert actions been taken against President Obama and his administration?
Well, I can't speak for Code Pink because it's a group of women, but I can speak for myself.
Yeah.
I was upset. I supported Obama in the beginning. Actually, I was one of his bundlers. And then as things moved forward and he said that Afghanistan was a good war, I confronted him about that. And how can you say there's a good war? When you have this position, you are the candidate because you were an anti-war candidate. And he believed in the war, and I couldn't stay with him. So I voted for Cynthia McKinney because obviously he was going to win, and I needed to vote my values. Right. And so since, Code Pink was outside of the convention, we were already protesting him, at the inauguration. We did outside of all the balls. Yes, we in more can-cans that were awesome. We had those pink ribbons tied around our finger whenever we saw him, which said, remember to keep your promises for peace. Remember? But, we did add him to our list of war criminals. Definitely the bombings and what he does with the drones are heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. The drone as a weapon is just indescribably, I can't even talk about it. I just feel grief. And what's happening and the level of carnage it's even more than what is happening in war now, which is 90% civilian casualty to 10% military casualty. Even stretches that number, which is already insane. He just seems to have become, a follower of the Pentagon, which is, just doing what it wants and has isn't held accountable for anything. I mean, you go to Afghanistan and the women just beg. I mean, not only do we have a budget that says we're helping Afghanistan, 90% of that money never gets to Afghanistan. It's spent in the United States, so we don't even help Afghanistan. The women are like, why are you training our boys and men to be warriors instead of police? This was always supposed to be about a police action. When Osama was killed, it wasn't the military, it was a police action. It was a police and intelligence, and we've said that since before. You don't go bomb a country to find a terrorist organization. You don't punish the people for, a violence that you've helped create.
Right.
I mean, it's at every level, it is just so wrong. So right now, actually today, the mayor's conference starts, and we've been running this campaign called Bring Our War Dollars Home, and Bring Our War Dollars Home. We've been working with the mayors across the country. Code Pink locals have been lobbying their mayor to get them to come out and sign a resolution that says, bring the money from the war home to the needs of our cities. And matter of fact, the mayor of Minnesota was one of the first. RT was.
That's right. RT Rybak told me last night at Drinking Liberally that I think he's traveling to Washington,
Yes,
D.C. next week to meet with other mayors.
Matter of fact, he Facebooked it last night. The first article about it, he was one of the first to Facebook it.
And so they're calling very specifically for an end to the war in Afghanistan?
Yes, to bring the war dollars home to the needs of the city.
I see.
Yes, and right now that's so important. Like we were watching that all the activism, all the phone calls, everything, by activists was not affecting Obama and Congress. So it was like, how do we find a bigger lever? Always as an activist, you're trying to find like, how do you move the levers of power? Mm-hmm. And so it was like the mayors, like it's so obvious. They're dealing with bankruptcy, and this is the money. It's like, is a school or bombing a school? Do you know what I mean? So they were happy to join in, and so there's this leadership, and the vote is tomorrow. So we're looking forward to the mayors stepping up to the plate and using their power to push Congress and Obama, because his decision has to happen before the middle of July about what that significant withdrawal looks like.
How many mayors are we talking, and what other high-profile mayors would you like to care to mention besides Minneapolis Mayor RT Rybak?
Well, the mayor who actually stepped up to the plate the first time around was my Mayor Antonio Villarosa of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And he stepped up to the plate and said, we have to make this happen. I'm going to be the president of mayors, and I'm going to make this important when I become president, which is this week. Mm-hmm. He subsequently has a immigration initiative that he needed to carry, and that's very delicate. So he moved off to carry that. And the mayor of Eugene, Oregon stepped in, and she became the leader. Mayor Kiss, who's been already a great mayor on Mayors for Peace out of Burlington, Vermont. It's been interesting to see, a lot of the mayors that we've been working with for a very long time that have known war is wrong, even say, I know maybe we're not going to get this back to our cities, it's just wrong what we're doing. So they're willing even to take the leadership, knowing that they can always find money for war and they can't find money for schools and the needs of our communities. Those are the only names that are coming.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Libya as well, which now has become the third war. Of course, we haven't talked about...
the only group out there, we took a lot of abuse for it, but war is wrong. And it really also... Let me just,
Sure.
What they tried to link it onto was that, here's this rising activism. It totally blurred the lines of what is nonviolent activism and what is violent activism. How could our diplomats come back and say the answer to this is to bomb first? Right. I mean, where is diplomacy? What Obama should have done is organize the heads of state of all the African countries to go to Gaddafi. Where was the conversation? Where was the push him down? What happens? You push Gaddafi, you're going to start bombing Gaddafi, and he's going to be locked in a corner. You don't give him a way out. It's just insane. It is insane. And what does it cause? More death, more violent, more people, taking up arms. It's just wrong on every level. And everybody, what you watch is the same thing happen. You watch people just go dumb. When they know better. What have we seen? We've already destroyed 2 countries. We're ready to destroy more. We're already destroying like the whole Pashtun community of Pakistan. When do we get that that's wrong? I don't understand. And we've known it, since Vietnam and beyond. And
yet we've had the contrast. We've witnessed democratic peaceful uprisings, so many already this winter.
Which is the only way democracy can happen. And let me tell you, everyone in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya knows that you can't bomb into democracy, that it needs to be something that happens within that country. And it's a struggle, and it's messy. And whenever we see something start to look messy, we think we can fix it, but we just make it messier. And in Afghanistan, the road to hell, writ with good intentions, is large. I don't think I saw anything that we do right there. But it's taking all the money that we need to be, strengthening our communities and our country away from us. It's just sucking away the resources. And we'll watch, we'll continue to watch the cost that is to the United States. Matter of fact, we have this great new campaign. It's called 10 Years and Counting. And what it's about is that in, September 11th is 10 years So starting September 12th through October 7th, when we bombed Afghanistan, we're looking to cultural organizations, theater, dance, community organizations, to find ways to express either like, what has that cost you, these 10 years, that reaction, or what's a way you would have responded differently? And let's do it through our cultural and creative ways. Let's, we're all tired of going up against power that's not moving. Right. Let's, come out at the back way. Let's be connected to each other. Let's express together. One of my favorite Code Pink campaigns was called Walk in Their Shoes, which was children's shoes with a tag tied on it to a young child that had died in Iraq. And when you looked at that, you felt what was real about what was happening. It connected to you. It even got more media than anything. And I think out there we all can feel what's wrong about this, and I look forward to the expressions of that, so we can start telling each other stories about why this 10 years was wrong.
And Code Pink has been so innovative, using humor and kind of sexual clothing and elements of pop culture to appeal to a very serious political topic. Those 3 weeks, September 11th to October 7th of this year coming up, where you'll appeal to other forms of creative expression to appeal to people. Nationwide, what other innovative groups or approaches do you see that are really that are really getting beyond this issue in terms of street theater or humor or whatever, creative means of expression?
Oh, well, this 10 years and counting is going to be a huge coalition. We hope to have every group engaged in it because it's affected everyone. And so the things that I already hear people talking about is there's a World Festival of Sacred Music in Los Angeles. The Iraq Vets Against the War are doing some amazing expressions through art, using their uniforms, using weapons, and transforming them into expressions of peace and community. It's endless. Theater, there's just the Culture Project is going to do, in New York City, is going to do a whole month of inviting playwrights to do a piece. I know one of them is called Overcoming Speechlessness by Alice Walker. And she wrote that book as a response to the trips that Code Pink, she went on Code Pink trip to Gaza. I want to say right now one of the hard things for us is that we have a lot of Code Pinkers going on the Freedom Flotilla, and Israel is still in a very militant position around that, and I have to say, I carry an anxiety every day until Medea and Anne and Alice are home.
Medea and Alice are on the flotilla right now?
It leaves in a couple of weeks, but it's building up to that, and it's just like I just can feel my anxiety. It's the fact that they would kill those people on the last flotilla. It's unfathomable. Like, what have we become? Right. And they just killed 19 activists on the it's just. And the Gazans are in a prison, and they're not letting them out. And
what's next for you?
Oh, what's next for me? Well, right now, what's next for me is when I was here for the Democratic National Convention, I was interviewed for a book, The Compassionate Rebel Revolution. So we'll hold it up a little. And by Bert Barlow, and we're going to be doing a signing over at the bookstore over there. Great. But after that, I'm also here because I'm the chair of the Women's Media Center, and we have misrepresentation that's been bought by the Oprah Network. And it's really to show the misrepresentation of women and the sexism of women. And kind of ahead of time, we just did our campaign that got Ed Schultz to resign for a week and really apologize for calling Laura a slut, and it really helps us show how much that's in our culture that's just allowed and not noticed. And so I'm really excited about this year misrepresentation and that conversation happening, because we had a campaign called Name It, Change It in the last campaign, and it really showed how much sexism is used when women run and why that's hard for women to run for office. And it showed the women that run how to deal with it. And all their campaign managers had always said, ignore it. And we were able to do a study that showed when you ignore it, it hurts you. But when you stand up against it, it helps you. And it not only helps you, but it takes you higher in the polls than you were before. So it's been a great tool of really freeing women from this kind of underlying sexism and misrepresentation. So I look forward to that.
That's great.